Welcome back to the More Than Mothering podcast, episode number 14. I'm your host, Crystal Hardstaff from The Gentle Counsellor, where I specialise in perinatal mental health and parenting support. And today on the podcast, we're joined by Sami from The Hold. And Sami is a preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum doula. And she's going to be talking to us today a bit about finding your calling during early postpartum. Welcome to the More Than Mothering podcast, Sami.
Hi, Crystal. I'm really honoured to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to chat to you.
So being a doula, that must be a very interesting job to get into. Do you want to tell us a bit more about your story and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with the present, which always seems like the most logical place to start. As you said, I'm a preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum doula. I work in an in-home capacity in Brisbane, in Queensland, in Australia, and I also take care of clients in a online capacity as well. Because if COVID times have taught us anything, it's that connection can exist in a multitude of ways. I have been in this work for almost 3 months now, and I used my parental leave after I gave birth to my beautiful boy to retrain. So I've got a 15-month-old boy, a 3-month-old business, and as of this morning, actually just before we started chatting, I have a full book of in-home clients
So amazing.
for postpartum care, which is really special and magic to be trusted like that, to be part of people's stories.
And to have that in such a fresh business of 3 months, like that, you must feel such a strong sense of achievement and also validation of feeling this next calling.
And it's been a really nice surprise, actually, just how organic the experience has been. Lots of hard work getting all the kind of admin logistics sides done, but the connection piece and finding clients has felt really organic and really natural. And I don't know, I think I'm getting messages from the universe time and time again that this is the right work, and this is a calling beyond just work or just a profession.
Yeah. And I'm really intrigued to hear more about your story of how that process happened to you, because before, when Sami and I were kind of chatting before I press record on the episode, I was starting to share how I can relate to this kind of sense of noticing this pattern in myself, and also with some of the clients I talk to, or even just people I see in general, that there does seem to be this strong correlation of people in that postpartum period either going into a new area of study or creating a business or something like that. And I've been kind of thinking it in the back of my mind. And so when Sami messaged me and mentioned that as a title, I was like so excited, because I think there is actually something here.
Absolutely. I think it'll be really fascinating as we continue to talk about matrescence and what it means for women and mothers and birthing people, to see how that experience and that transition impacts all the different facets of who we are. I felt somewhat prepared for the change in identity and emotions and all the physical aspects, and knew really key kind of parts of my personality were going to shift and evolve with early motherhood. But in no way, shape, or form did I think a career change or retraining was on the cards for me at all. I loved my job before I went on parental leave, and I still work in my current job in public health in a part-time capacity for the moment. At least we'll see what happens as the clients continue to find me. But had really no desire or no expectation that my year off work would have that in store for me. But matrescence had other plans. And here we are. I'm a doula now.
Yeah, it's interesting how matrescence just kind of happens to you. You don't really get to choose what that process looks like. So how did that start for you, especially with a career change into being a doula? That is such a sacred position, and I know you're probably going to feel that too. And I'm always so in awe of people who go into a job like that. And I even hate using the word job, actually, because
Totally.
that it's more than a job, right? Like, it takes a very special kind of person to be able to do that and to find the right fit, and even for you to find clients that fit you as well. Like, it goes both ways. So
Absolutely.
how did that process even start for you, realizing that that's something you wanted to do?
It happened so naturally and in such an unexpected way. And I think the gift of the stage of life that I'm at now, where I continue to kind of unpack my own life and, you know, my learnings and unlearning and figuring out who I am. As part of that, there were some really big lessons for me in my own postpartum experience. I'm trained as a researcher with my work in public health. I'm very scientific, very A-type. I like things down the line and organized and Excels and notes. And I thought I could doula myself for my own postpartum experience. I thought it was about knowledge. It was about knowledge and having every piece of information at hand and memorized like it was a test. And
Going
that
into
would be
birth
the
like
thing.
it's a
Yeah,
test.
exactly. And that was going to be the thing that was going to save
Wow.
me, was information and knowledge. And in news that will surprise no one who's been through that transition, knowledge means almost nothing. It's community and it's connection. They're the things that save you and pull you through. And along with the healing of that process and that experience was, just that big lesson and kind of tapping into that deep knowing. And I love that you use the word sacred, because that's a word I feel really comfortable using for this work as well, because it's beyond the kind of tangible way that I've lived my life, and the way that I've gathered information and gathered knowledge is useful, but it's that deep kind of that sacred, that soft feminine deep knowing in me that has been there my whole life and had been, it's in my mum and my grandma and my great grandma, but the breaking and rebuilding of early postpartum, it 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 tapped me into that kind of that soft sacred knowing. And I think through that process, and through my own postpartum, the message was just really clear that it's time to turn into myself and see what's there. But also there's something in here for me in terms of the way that I'm of service to other women and other birthing people. And I just feel really, really blessed and continuously surprised just how easy and organic the process has been. I feel like the universe is on my side.
Yeah, that's so nice. And that must be a very different feeling to your current work, but like your previous work, hopefully, right? Or any job. And even just the way we talk about, becoming an adult and figuring out what you want to do in your career. The words that we have been using to describe this for you is not at all what we're taught. It's kind of like we're never given an option to really sit with time or sit with experiences that we go through to then figure it out. Because for most of us, a lot of people are working from, late or mid-teens, like 15 or 16 years old. And then you just kind of follow a path or go to uni, or you do what your friend wants to do, or things like that. And even for myself, I always think if I could go back and talk to myself like so many years ago when I thought teaching was what I wanted to do, and then to see where I am now as a counselor and in private practice and in this online world of social media that just did not exist beyond MySpace back then, right? Like, just how different things are in the world is. And even like you mentioned about seeing clients online, because then we had things like COVID happen with the pandemic, and like 99% of my clients are online as well.
There you go.
And it's just so
The
interesting how you
connection's
can
there,
connect.
right?
Yeah.
And that sacred element, and I would say that work, counseling, especially for people in early postpartum, that work is sacred as well. And to be able to hold space and witness and see in face-to-face and an online environment is it's just that intangible thing that, with all the knowledge I have, I still can't quite articulate what it is. There's something in there for someone smarter than I or with more time than I to go and research what the piece is.
So let's talk a bit more about matrescence, because I feel
Yeah.
like it's a word that I've gotten quite familiar with. And I know some people, like in my, circles of friendships and in the online community, know about it, but I wonder if it's still not quite really out there yet of what do we mean when we talk about matrescence. And on that note, even if people listening are familiar with that term, it's very much been used to talk about motherhood, specifically when it comes to our identity as a mother and how that shows up in raising our children. But I don't think I've seen many people talk about how that also comes up with your identity in your like career or business or your hopes or hobbies, that kind of thing. And I know you were kind of touching on that at the beginning of the podcast episode of how that does play a crucial role in going through that next transitional period of, oh, this is now who I'm becoming next, like a continuation of my growth and who I am. And that process is also very painful
Oh, you bet it
and
is.
complicated and uncomfortable and not something you could probably research and figure all out, which I'm sure drove your type A personality, as you said, crazy. Again, that's like trying to go into a test. And for me, matrescence, and with my business, it showed up a lot because so much of all of my careers between teaching, school counseling has been about children. And so how you're talking about how you went into going into birth, that's how I felt becoming a parent. So all of my focus was, how can I be the best parent I can be? How can I learn all the gentle parenting ways and attachment parenting ways? And that just came naturally with my studies anyway. But then that was part of why I decided to become a perinatal mental health counselor and focus more specifically on supporting parents, especially in those early couple of years, because it's such a transformational time. And there's only so much attempt at perfect parenting that you can do before you realize that not only are you allowed to have some attention and time for yourself, but a lot of those gentle parenting practices, I also talk a lot with clients about realizing to then turn that advice around on yourself, because we talk so much about validating our children and acknowledging their feelings. Meanwhile, we're blaming ourselves and beating up ourselves on the inside, right? Laying in bed going, wow, I was the worst parent today, like I could have done all these things better. And then scrolling endlessly on Instagram, following every single parenting page, buying every single parenting book, instead of taking a moment to pause and have some self-compassion for ourselves. And for me, that was a huge turning point.
Oh, I so hear it. And I think the gift of matrescence, and also the gift of gentle parenting, aware parenting, attachment parenting, all concepts that we
all the
aware
million
of.
names that we use for the similar thing.
I'm so glad I came across during my pregnancy. The gift of all of those very diverse things is the ability to look in. So you can do your research, you can figure out all the different approaches and the right words to use, and the words you could be using. And with matrescence, with gentle parenting, with aware parenting, we're given the opportunity, even when it is so uncomfortable and itchy and awkward, to look in and see who's there with us. And I think that has been the most remarkable surprise of my own experience postpartum and my own experience of matrescence is it is big, it is painful, it can feel really relentless, especially when you're asked to turn up and parent. And often, those big internal moments happen when, you've got for me anyway, there was those early weeks where I had really progressed mastitis. My partner had COVID. I had COVID. My mum, who was there with us.
No, what an awful time for you
it was
all.
really, really tough. My bubba wasn't sleeping. He had a dairy protein allergy that wasn't diagnosed at the time. My mum had left to go back to Sydney, and we had no family, we had no friends, and we were in the thick of it and doing all of that, which is not a unique experience. We all have, those really like dark nights of the soul in early parenting. But like the kind of like laughing through tears during those really challenging days, because not only are you in the thick of early parenting, but you're also exploring your own inner world. And my partner and I having to kind of talk about, like, who's here in the room with us? Is it my dad? Is it your mum? Is it, your grandparents, my grandparents? Who's here with us? What are these triggers? Where are they coming from? How are we going to work through them? And to do that whilst everything else is circling around is overwhelming and intense and a very unexpected part of the postpartum experience. But if you can weather the storm, for me anyway, what was on the other side is truly the most remarkable inner work I've ever done in my entire life.
Definitely. I can so agree with that statement. And just as you were talking, and even for people listening, it can often sound like we're talking about so much of the downs and the bads, right?
Mm,
But I think we forget that there is still life and beauty in those moments. It's
mm,
not something to shy away from, not something to avoid, or to think, oh, that means my life is bad or I am bad because this bad thing
mm,
happened. This language that we have that's very negative around our human
mm.
experiences, right? And it's not about chucking on like a band-aid solution like toxic positivity. That's not at all what I'm trying to say
Absolutely.
about this. It's just recognizing that even in those really like sleep deprived states, and
Mm,
you're so irritated that you've been woken up a million times, or you're like resentful to your partner and you don't want to be resentful to your baby, and then you look at them and you have this moment where you realize how nice and quiet it is and how cozy you are in bed and
mm,
how warm they feel against your body,
mm.
or like hearing the little noises they make. And then sometimes you just have a moment in all that chaos where you go, oh, this is it.
This is
Like,
it.
this is a
Yeah.
nice, beautiful moment, or who I just realizing who I am right now in this moment.
Mm, mm.
And I think that can be really powerful as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That I think it's a Chinese proverb, or a Buddhist proverb maybe. No mud, no lotus, Sometimes you got to get deep down in the mud
Yes.
for that beautiful lotus to grow. And
So
yeah,
true.
it's not everyone's experience, but for me, through the mud, who I've met,
Mm.
who's still me. I think, it's tricky when, we live in a society where bounce back culture, you're you're told a lot that the ideal experience in early parenthood and early motherhood is to get back to who you were, when of course that is wrong on so many levels. But what I think we really do a huge disservice to new parents and to new mothers, is letting them know that through the mud, through the storm, who is waiting for them on the other side is the most beautiful, fortified, incredible version of themselves. And you just need support, and you need a team around you to get to that stage.
Yes, because the whole getting through is something I talk about with clients, with how motherhood can actually kind of propel you through that. Because
Mm,
I think a lot of us, rightly so, like, complain, right? Like, we're venting to each other. There's annoyances and frustrations that we all deal with. And I think that's okay. Like, I think a lot of people are being honest and being outspoken about the realities and being truly honest about their experiences. Um, and I think we also need to bring in some balance in realizing that there's a way to get through that. And
yeah.
it's also not fun hearing this if you're in the thick of it. And I really want to honor that for anyone listening,
Mm,
because I would not want to hear anyone saying that to me. Like, I remember those moments where you're truly in the thick of it and nothing, it feels like it's going to be forever and it feels like it's never ending.
it's all consuming. Yeah.
Yeah, because it is. And
Yeah.
then you get glimmers where you get like a little taste of the other side, or
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
that little reality check of, oh, okay, this is like maybe 3 years of my life where I'm needed so much. And
Mm,
that's like, what, maybe 3% of my life.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like a numbers person. And so that really helped me have some perspective on the situation. I
Mm,
was like, okay, I can tough this out for 3% of my life. And then I also was challenging this notion of tough it out. I was like, oh, that's a bit depressing, isn't it? Why do I feel like I have to tough it out? And even that came a lot of unpacking all these stories, which can,
mm,
it's also very capitalist society of like, must
absolutely.
work hard and always be productive.
Mm,
And then it was realizing I can still do things for me at the same time. It just might look different.
mm.
And
Did that
yes, I
happen
don't have
after
endless
motherhood?
time. Yeah, I don't know. For me,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
did. For me, with both kids, something around like that 4 to 7 months was when I had this like surge of energy and creative burst coming out of me. And I think I started the gentle counselor. Oh, I think I kind of had like a little mummy blog before it was technically a gentle counselor. And that was when my daughter was a baby and I had her at
Sure.
home in that first year. And that's also when I went back to study my master's in education to do school counseling. So that was like both at the same time. And then continuing on my study into psychology before I became a counselor. That was when my son was a newborn, because I have a picture of me breastfeeding him as a newborn as I was writing my thesis, like my last thing to submit.
Incredible.
And I look back and I think, how insane.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like my children never slept, and I want to make that really clear to people. And I had many nights staying up till like 2 a.m. trying to get my work done. And I did it. People ask me, how did you do it? I'm like, I just did because I had to and I wanted to.
Mm, mm.
And that
Oh,
was very different. It was for me. And I loved exercising my brain and learning about all the things. And
yeah.
I made it work. And then I'd be gentle on myself during the day, or I would sleep when the baby slept. During nap time, I let the house go a little bit, or my husband stepped up a bit, and it just looked different. But it didn't mean I
Yeah.
had to self-sacrifice myself through
Mm,
that. I feel like I was able to find some sort of balance.
and that's the thing, right? The balance is it's so uh, it's so hard to know what balance feels like until it happens. And
Mm,
it can be really tough, I think, especially in, yeah, those first few months of parenting to see a world where balance will be a reality
mm,
again. And I think it's just the time when pulling in your support people, whether it's a doula or a counselor, whatever it looks like, practical help around the house, a cleaner, just bringing in that support system to get you through until a version of balance happens again. And then,
yes.
the surrender to balance just being a sometimes
Mm,
thing we can work towards, it being
mm,
a daily practice, but you just kind of go with the flow. I've never been so accepting of a lack of routine and just needing to be in flow and surrender. It's entirely against my nature. And the way that I kind of accept it internally is that as part of this change and this growth and this transition and this step away from this really masculine way of
mm,
living
mm,
driven by
mm.
achievement and degrees and the next promotion, um, that, yeah, as part of this deeper, more sacred feminine part of myself, with early motherhood, is the surrender
Mm.
and the ability to flow and go when those moments of balance happen. Isn't just the most amazing thing where everyone's feeling validated and seen and
Yeah.
held and the whole world just feels at ease. I'm learning to enjoy those moments, knowing that, the moments of unbalance are sure to come again.
Yeah, they can be fleeting
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I like how you use the word balance. And I think it's also important for everyone to think, what does balance mean to me? Because if you're
Mm,
using the word happy, it's like, well, that's not really balance. For me, balance was like acceptance.
mm,
And that use of duality and the and, like I can be sleep deprived and also feel energized in my creative ways, which doesn't make
mm,
sense when you think, how are you tired, but also feeling energized and creative? And it's like, well, that's the and. I'm tired
mm,
because I'm sleep deprived because I was working every hour. And I'm
mm,
energized because I got this great idea for a project or whatever it might be. And I think the more we try to force ourselves to keep going as if things haven't changed and we really meet that resistance, you're going to keep being met with resistance. It's just going to keep
mm,
pushing back on you more and more. And I think when I realized that and stopped following all the people that were telling me to put my baby on on a schedule and watching the clock and all those things that truly were so detrimental to my mental health, once I just
mm,
accepted how it was and tried to find interest or curiosity in in the new flow of the way our world was going to
Mm.
be, then that's when things started to change for me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
The
like you
ease.
said, definitely having that community and creating your community.
Mm.
The community, unfortunately, doesn't always find you. You have to sometimes put in a little bit of effort to that, which also sucks to hear. But
Yeah.
it's just a sad reality of the kind of society we live in where we're not really all together anymore.
Mm.
And online was really helpful for me with that, with like mum Facebook groups. And I would find ones that were particular to what my interest was, like a gentle parenting or like breastfeeding or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Or even creating your own page, which was probably also why the gentle counselors started, to connect with
Mm.
other people and just having that new way of connecting with like-minded people and getting that support and having friends reach out. And I have great friendships now that have come from what we were warned about talking to strangers on the internet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's wild, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
just, I think there is, again, circling back to what we were saying at the start of the podcast, I really do hope that someone with a more the scientific mind than I can get the world talking about whatever this piece, this piece that I can't name and word for myself, this deep feminine knowing that not only can propel you on a different way of living, but makes these connections
Mm.
with other new parents, with other new mums. It's something I've never felt in my entire life. It's just this secret club who welcome you in and just see you and get you, and what it's like to have people professionally and personally in your circle who aren't trying to problem solve for you,
Mm.
unless that's something that you're interested in. People who are just there to see you, to witness you,
Yeah.
and to hold space for you is truly the most powerful thing. And yeah, in doula work, in my own motherhood journey, it's been, yeah, that, like, especially online, that online network that I've
Yeah.
never felt so welcome and so seen.
You're
It's
so
a
right.
powerful
It
thing.
truly is a gift to meet people who are able to do that for you.
Mm.
I don't even know if saying do that for you is the right word to use. It's not even a doing. That's the kind of ironic part of holding space for someone. It's actually just being with someone and how they're feeling and allowing that person to sort through their own inner wisdom and their own instincts.
Mm.
And I think for a long time, a lot of us have those instincts shut down. And that could have been from your whole life, ranging from reasons like how your parents were and how you were raised as a child, all the way to even like I was talking about the parenting stuff, like having people you see as experts and you're feeling
Mm.
so conditioned to doing whatever the book said instead of what you feel is right. Like just all those kind of small but very frequent ways that
Mm.
we forget what that feels like in like that gut instinct,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
when you have that creative or energetic burst and it's like that little fire is lit inside of you and you just want to follow that.
Mm.
And sometimes the realities of our world can weigh us down a bit even in that. And you can find many excuses to not follow it because that's just a world we live in as well, I think, right? Like it's really hard when you have responsibilities and you've got bills to pay, or,
Mm.
you know, you don't want to wake up, but the baby's crying and needs a feed, like just any of
Mm.
those many ways. And that's where that community or the people around you can really step in to help give you that little nudge of encouragement or be there to hear you talk
Mm.
about all of those really deep, painful things that you don't want to voice to anyone. You don't even want to voice or admit to yourself. But to
Absolutely.
find someone so special like that to really be there, like you said, to witness and hold space for you,
Yeah.
that then gives you permission to do that for yourself. And
Mm.
that's what can have that kind of next trajectory of self growth and healing through relationships and community. We
Mm.
can't do it all on our own.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's so funny that you say that. My beautiful, amazing counselor, who's also a doula, we talk all the time about how we're given the impression that you can heal by yourself, which for some
Mm-hmm.
people they absolutely can, and power to them. It's not a skill that I have, and it's not a skill that I want. But when we're with community, when we're with people who see us, sometimes, depending on what you're working through, healing can be as simple as someone else saying, I so hear what that experience was like for you, and I really hold space for how it's feeling for you now. And words so simple, but with said with intention and with real presence and real listening, can just be the start of an incredible healing journey. And it's why I called my my business The Hold. I'm thinking about, you know, what my special sauce is, you know, the thing that I can offer clients that's kind of unique to me. You know, I can cook, I can hold a baby, I can give you a foot soak, I can, you know, work through a yoga nidra meditation with you. But the thing that I can do, that I would like to think is a really like heart space skill, is the ability to just hold the space. And it's important to me because it doesn't come naturally to me. I'm a problem solver. I want to fix myself, and I want to fix those around me. And so a beautiful piece of this work for my clients, but also for myself, is just continuously reminding myself, you just need to hold space. That's all you need to do. And yeah, like you said, the inner wisdom, when given a place and a time, it's all there. You know, it's not about learning, it's about remembering, it's about tapping into what's been there all along.
Yeah, that's so true. I love that you've ended with that beautiful reflection on that. Thank you so much, Sami, for this amazing chat today. It's been really nice.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell everyone where they can find a bit more of you?
Absolutely. Thanks, Crystal. It's really, really wonderful to have the time to talk to you. Folks can find me at The Hold Doula Co, The Hold, H-O-L-D, Doula Co, on Instagram, all one word, and theholddoulaco.com.
Thanks so much, Sami, and I'll make sure to have all of those linked below for everyone too.
So wonderful, Crystal. Thanks for the time.